pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any guests?
Not guess, but we will recognize it as a birthday girl. Very cool.
Birthday already.
Yeah.
51.
She's not even shy about saying
No.
No, it only gets better as we go.
That's not true.
I'm gonna believe it is.
Her birthday was my.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
So no other guess.
No one
Yes, 30.
Awesome. Okay.
Well, I think everyone's familiar with our public comment on non-agenda item policy. I just want to remind everyone that you are giving consent to be videotaped and recorded by being here. So that's what's happening right now. Those will be on the website for the public's perusal. So with that, is there any public comment on any non-agenda item? Any public comment on non-agenda item? Seeing none. Ready, Mr. Ayers?
Consent agenda is recommended that the district approve the following items on the consent agenda: minutes, regular July 9, 2024, warrant list, July 2024, including payroll and operational, and disposal of records exceeding required retention schedule.
Okay, is there anything on the consent agenda that a board member would like to remove? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. First action item, it is recommended that the district approve the proposed 2024-25 employment for Case Cruz, high school assistant football coach.
Okay, motion to support that recommendation for a high school assistant football coach.
So moved.
Second. And moved in second. Discussion on that. Miranda, did you talk to that or who?
I can, I have not been part of assistant coach hires, since Mr. Parsekian has been here. But Case was a graduate 2 years ago, so he was in the class of 23. Class of 2023. He played football, went on to try and take his passion to the collegiate level. And different things unfolded, and he was excited to come back and help the team. I know Mr. Crop is excited to have him join the football staff, and so I think it'll be a good fit. So
Any other questions for Mr. Cruz? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve Case Cruz as high school assistant football coach, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. It's recommended that the district approve the proposed 2024-25 employment for Virginia Davis, evening custodian, 0.5 FTE, so half-time.
Motion to support that recommendation. Second. Moved in second. A discussion on that. Mr. Ayers, are you involved with that one?
Yep, so Virginia used to work as a custodian here, so she's familiar with the duties associated with the job. She's has experience cleaning the elementary school, and she would be assigned to grades 3 through 5. And if we hire her, it won't require hiring a cleaning company to come in part-time and finish the elementary school.
We'll have enough custodians to do that all on our own now.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or discussion about Virginia Davis? Any questions? Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve Virginia Davis as evening custodian at halftime, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Action item B, it is recommended that the district approve the proposed 2024-2025 activities handbook. This is the handbook for advisors and coaches.
Is there a motion for support of that recommendation tonight?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded for that. Discussion on that. Tell us what we're seeing, Mr. Harris, when we look at that link.
So first, I would just add that, Mr. Parsedian, our new athletic director, worked with Mrs. Hallis on this handbook. He's at the other end of the building. It's all sports information night. So, what I know is anything that's in blue text, that represents only changes or revisions to the handbook from previous years. And Miranda, do you want to speak to any of the changes what they pertain to?
So we included just kind of the outline for the processes and expectations for purchasing requests. Just so that outlines what coaches, advisors, it would even pertain to like class advisors. Just to help them have a place of reference to go through and we're consistent in those steps and can follow that. So that's one part. It outlines that process with the booster club as well, so that is clear. It goes into fundraising protocols and kind of what the expectations are that. And then lastly, we just added some more details to activity trip protocols. So making sure that coaches and advisors and basically those individuals make sure to have the itinerary and the list of students and everybody traveling in and to the office sooner rather than later. So we're not really trying to figure out who's going where last minute. So hopefully that helps with communication between teachers, between our office, between our athletic director. And so there's that. And also just putting in the stuff that when there's trips that are not athletic related, that there's requests going in so that we know who's going where and we have all the information to make sure that.
Have we not had this before? Is this just a cleaned up version of it, basically?
So last year we did have the trip request form, but it was not mentioned in this handbook because it was something that we identified as kind of a whole that I don't know if over the course of the years when like administration changed or we had office changes, if it kind of fell through the cracks. If it was like we had a field trip request form in paper form, but it wasn't always getting filled out. And so we were realizing that we were kind of lacking in that consistent communication so that we knew what was happening where. And so we implemented that procedure last year and then this year put it in here as kind of an expectation. So staff, once it was there, were great about using it. And then as far as athletics, our athletic director does all of that.
Is this an electronic form available then? So that's the way it is. It's not paper anymore. So it should make it much cleaner.
Yeah, and within the form itself, it kind of outlines all of the things like, have you put in a sub request if you need one for teachers? Is this overnight or not? Has transportation been requested and arranged? And all of kind of those guiding questions to be sure that all of the steps have been completed or are in the works for the actual event.
Okay. Any other questions for Miranda or Brian?
One question I had on the activity trip protocol portion of it, your bullet point A on there gives you 24 hours prior to departure is what you're asking for. It just seems like that was kind of a short time frame for the administration to review this and make sure that everything is right.
So that travel itinerary is primarily who's traveling. And so one of the reasons, because we kind of talked about what timeline it would be. And one of the thoughts is at the minimum, it would be 24 hours because if an athlete were to be injured or something that happened the night before, we would just need that notification sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, there were times last year where we didn't have lists at all. And so we're hoping that with at least a 24-hour notice like the day before, that would be the latest we get it. So we're going to encourage it to be sooner, but kind of,
I think it did say something here as far as any last minute changes or whatever would need to be communicated as well.
Yeah.
After that is submitted, so.
yeah, I believe so.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion then to approve this activities handbook, advisors and coaches as presented tonight, say aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Next item C, it is recommended that the district approve the proposed obsolete property resolution, the coach buses that we own. The district owns Activity Bus 1 and Activity Bus 2.
Do we need any explanation of that before we even call for a motion for that? Mr. Ayers, can you explain to us why we're doing that part?
Yeah, so we are active, the transportation committee is actively seeking purchase of a new bus. And because funds are limited, and I'll even back up, what started the whole conversation is a $100,000 anonymous donation to the Manhattan Public Schools Foundation for a new bus. And I mean, I can only assume that the reason for that donation is just the knowledge in our community that our buses routinely break down, the ones that we own. The activity buses, we're constantly having to send buses to get our kids. A couple of years ago, we actually had one of our high school football players actually get the bus running, so we could get home. I think that knowledge prompted a very generous donation. And so the transportation committee has been actively seeking other funds so that we can purchase a new bus for the district that meets the needs of the district. So why do we need to sell these, but at least one of them? For us to access the depreciation funds, and right now we have $83,000 in depreciation funds. We have to be replacing part of our fleet that we own, can't add to it. And so as long as we own both of these activity buses or one of them, and we can't access that 83,000, we need that 83,000 to go hand in hand with the donation. We have other one-time only funds that we can access, grant monies. We have funds in the multi-district fund that we can access, and Nate has been in conversation with our booster club in having them help us fundraise to reach, the bus that we're looking at is going to be mid to upper 300,000. And it's, and we can get into that here in a little bit, but we have to sell one or both of these buses.
So in order to sell them, we have to put it on what's called an obsolete property resolution. It sounds kind of, that's like the broken chairs and things that we've done in the past, but that's where it has to go in order for us to be able to sell that bus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing that, is there a motion to support that recommendation? So moved. Then moved and seconded. Other discussion on that?
Is there a certain amount of time between, let's say one of these or both of them sells, and when you would purchase something new? Do you have a certain amount of time to make that new purchase and still access those depreciated funds? Or does that account remain open for you essentially indefinitely?
So it's gonna
Right.
eventually take a few months to get
Yeah.
a
So-
new bus.
Yeah. And so if we were prepared tonight, if we had a proposal for a new bus tonight, we could begin depreciating the new bus tonight. We're not there. And so because we're not there, even if we sell one of these two buses or both of them, we can still depreciate them for this coming year, which is 20,000,
Until we sell, right? So they're,
10,000 per bus.
yeah, you're gonna see they're gonna be part of the budget.
Yeah.
To get another 20, so eventually that will help us with the new bus.
Right. And so I think maybe to answer your question, we've been in conversation, there are buses out there that we could have on property by the start of school or by our first away game. I don't know that that particular bus meets our needs. It would be a brand new bus. I don't know that it would have the seating capacity or storage. The bus that I believe would meet our needs, and we can talk about that here on the next item, but that bus is 5 to 10 months out. And so even if we were to sell these buses, or not selling, we can still proceed with, moving toward that purchase. We just can't close the deal and access that $83,000 unless one of those two buses sells. Did that answer your question, too?
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the obsolete property resolution, placement of coach buses on that, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. So the next item, I want to maybe just have a little bit of discussion. I don't know that we are, we're not ready to make a recommendation to purchase. We don't have a proposed coach bus, but I can tell you a little bit about the buses that we've been looking at. It is recommended that the district consider a future purchase of a coach bus. Okay, so it would be something we would come back to, we're probably next. I think we should be ready to come back with a recommendation next month.
So is this necessary then to
No, we
allow
can
you to move
table
forward? I don't think it is. I mean, if we're going to wait, that would be my
Yeah,
thought on this, that we don't need anything.
we're not actually making a recommendation. I just, if there were any questions, we could have a conversation, but at this point in time, we need to table this probably till next month.
Until next month. Are there any questions though about what the transportation committee's been looking at? Do you want to talk about that now, or are you going to do that in your information?
I mean, I can do it now, or I can pull this up. So we're kind of looking at ultra coach liners or freight liners. I can send you forward an email to you guys right now, if you want to look at this. Did I send this just to the transportation committee or to the whole board?
No, I don't think.
So if you go to your email, you're going to see that two different types of coach liners. The one that I think the transportation committee, if we are committed to waiting 5 to 10 months, if we're able to do that, I think the DXL is where the transportation committee is right now, in terms of what they prefer, in terms of meeting our needs of capacity, storage, but then also when you look at the details for the two buses, just there's more power, and it's going to meet our needs more in Montana conditions throughout the course of the year. And I'm going to send you a follow-up email, and this one has Freightliner, and I've spoken with Miranda and with Megan. If we were to receive word from Camp Implement that our two buses are not going to be roadworthy at all, this would be probably the leading option for us. If we were committed to a bus, day one. But if we were willing to wait as a district to get the bus that we feel best meets our needs, then we're looking at the ultras. So right now I'm sending you an email on Freightliner Star Rider 45. The seating capacity on this one, it comes to us with 41 seats with storage in the back. You can add 5 seats, but you lose the storage and there's no underneath storage. And so right now, when our teams travel, they're required to bring a lot of other, an SUV or some other form of transportation out into a trailer just to get all the equipment we need. And that's primarily for, say, football, track, and the larger sports. But even with some of our smaller teams and activities, we still have to take extra vehicles. We have a 15-passenger van that we can use to increase our capacity. But again, the storage is the concern. And I'm going to forward a third email to you, and this is one from Chuck Nelson. in this one, here. This has a travel coach, which the transportation committee isn't really leaning toward.
Travel coach is like what Karst runs for their big trips. It's a 3-axle.
Yeah, and the bus that Chuck shared with me and I shared with the transportation committee, I'll send it to you right now. It's a 2015. In talking with Chuck, the buses that meet our needs that they can provide are used or lease, which we're not closed off to that option either. I just don't know that these are the buses that.
Something that we do know is that with the national bus sales, the DXL and the SE 102, we do have schools in our area that have purchased both of those. So
Yeah.
we've got an opportunity to talk to them. The DXL is Ennis, Haver, Whitehall, Bainville, and Fraser. The SE 102 is Big Sky, Shoto, Cascade, and Three Forks. So we could get real-time information from them about what those buses are doing for them.
And I have a message to our new transportation manager for Harlow's. He's also the transportation manager for Whitehall. And so I've asked him the question of what options did they get with their new bus? And what did they learn, in the first year that they would have done differently to help guide us in our decision making. So the ultra coaches, I think we have 15 school districts in Montana that have them. And Rob just mentioned some of them with the DXL. So 2 of them in our district. We get a lot of questions asked from them. Or answered by them.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Ayers or any of the transportation committee? I guess that's his brand here, so.
Rand, and I know Ethan and Matt, just speaking with them, just with the concerns of the engines, that was confirmed. Mike Camp doesn't say a whole lot, but in my notes, time and again, he just said, this is a bad motor, this is a bad motor, bad motor. And he said, we're never going to stop spending money on our the two that we currently own. And so it's really, it's kind of a no-brainer. We have to get out of those. How about that? How about that? Another legal pad I know you're working on, but we're gonna spend some money, not a lot, on AV1 to get it going for this school year. In fact, it's ready now. Not sure he's gonna be able to get the AC working in it. But it's not gonna have it's lost about 20 horsepower. But it's passing all the tests that they've run it through, and but AV2, he feels he's a little worried about what they're gonna find when they dig a little deeper on that. And so we'll have to make a decision as a district, are we wanting to spend that much money? I mean, he's talking neighborhood of $10,000 to $12,000 to get it. It's what he thinks it is. What's going on? And that may be more than what we'll get for it.
The trouble is he can fix one problem and it can pass all the codes and you can have it very short distance and it can disintegrate again.
Yeah. And he said that time and again, especially in talking about AV2.
AV2, yes.
Yeah. So I don't recommend us sending AV2 out at all this year. I think we need to try to sell it for whatever we can get for it. And I know that's not a motion here, but I think that's the bus we need to move off our fleet, even if it's for parts, just so that we can access the 83,000. Kelly, you weren't here when I mentioned, and I brought it up earlier, but we want to work with our booster club in helping us get to the goal, what it's going to cost. We were looking mid to upper $300,000 for the DXL.
Okay,
So,
anyone have any other questions for Mr. Ayers regarding
booster club to come up with about 275.
275?
Let's give a 10-minute speech, let's do what we can.
I think we can actually cover most of it with funds that we have. And keep in mind, that's a very generous donation. That's depreciation funds. And that's whatever we get for the trade-in or sale of one or both of those buses. And then we have some grants that we have access to. We don't want to deplete those. We can't deplete those. And then we have some funds in multi-district that we also want to be very careful with, because most of those funds are earmarked for curriculum needs.
Earmarked for what?
Curriculum needs that we have. We use those funds to help address our shortfalls. We're really hopeful that our increased enrollment, that we will see increased enrollment in our October count, which will help set us up for next year, so that we don't see the shortfalls that we have seen in the last few years.
I think one of the things that's at the forefront of the transportation community is just the safety of the kids. You know, I mean, we've been along with these two buses for a long time, and it's not going very well. So I think it's important that we keep that in mind, and we've got the opportunity now to, with this significant donation, to do something significant. And so from our perspective, I think it's a good time for us to do something.
So just to put that in perspective, the Ultra Coach is either one, 5 to 10 months out. The Freightliner could be at the beginning of the fall season. It would be 41 seats. They would, because the seats are on back, I mean, they have to ship them to us. We would have to install the additional seats to get to 46. The buses from Davie Coach could be here for the start of school. And so that's just the timeline. The Freightliner, yeah, I already said that, could be here for the start of school. You know, we have 2 activity buses. We have one we own, and we're hearing that it'll be ready to run, but we're also hearing that expect more problems with it, because there will be. We have the other bus that Harlow's owns that runs. It's not the greatest bus. We're probably going to be spending some money if we go to 5 to 10 months out and sending our students out on the yellow buses, which we know are safe, right? And because it does cost more to use those for activities and athletics than it does the district ones. But right now, that's where we are. It is safety. I mean, I hold my breath every weekend. I just wait for phone calls on those activity buses in past years.
Anyone have any other?
I think we're to the mindset too, that it takes waiting 5 to 10 months. And we can make the transportation that we're willing to do that. To wait that time if we have to. I'd rather wait 5 to 10 months to get something that we really want than to compromise to get something that's going to work. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to do it right. So that's where we're at.
Any other comments or questions?
The only other one I would say is, you know, I want to work really closely with boosters and the board, and just in our messaging, because I think we really need to make sure, I need to make sure that I'm going to need help communicating the need, because we're a district that's been experiencing budget shortfalls, and we roll a $400,000 bus out from the parking lot. Our folks need to understand, A, why do we have a new bus? And then we also need to communicate how will we do this? Because without that donation, we're not even having this conversation. And the upside of a new bus coming on, and at this point, we won't have it in time for this year, but is it 20% of the overall value? So we're looking at $70,000 of depreciation every year once we get the new bus here, 5 to 10 months. So starting for next fiscal year, $70,000 in depreciation. Now we start a cycle, kind of like a uniform cycle in athletics where you have a rotation. And X number of years down the road, we know we're getting another bus and it's not emergency. You know, we now are building up significant depreciation where we can go out and, because that's how Freeforce does it. When I spoke with them, that's how they're able to constantly have a reliable and dependable newer bus on hand, is they have a rotation in place and they own all their buses, so they're depreciating everything. And they just have earmarked, on this year, we're getting a new bus. And that's how other districts are able to do it. That question was asked last month. That's how districts are able to do it. They own all their buses, where we don't. So we have to be a little more creative in terms of willing depreciating. Like right now, 2 buses at $20,000 a year. That's going to take forever. Because the cost for buses, like technology, it's not going down. It keeps going up. So
And that would be probably one reason to keep one of those white buses, because we're gonna eventually, in however many years, if we wanted to replace another one of those, then we could have 2 newer ones. You know, but if we get rid of both of them, then we have to replace the new one. So,
right, because remember, you can't touch the depreciation funds unless you're replacing a bus you have. So we do need to keep the bus.
I mean, that's one of the advantages of the buses that we purchase, is that we have been able to build depreciation, even though it's been not a good situation. Because prior to that, we didn't have any. So that's the silver lining of it. My only concern, so what's the depreciation based off of?
not the value of the bus.
The value of the bus, but a percentage or?
We have 20%.
It's not actual depreciation of the bus.
Correct.
20%. So the only thing that I'd encourage the transportation committee to look at is anytime you buy something brand new, you know, your actual depreciation is so rapid on most things anyway. I mean, I don't know anything about buses, is that it may be much faster than the 20% that we're looking at gaining on that. So it would most likely be much more fiscally responsible to buy a used bus and as opposed to a brand new bus that's higher end. And if this is possible, I know this is a big ask, but just as far as numbers go, depreciating 20% of something that's actually not depreciating 20% is much more desirable than depreciating 20% of something that's going down by 30%, say 40%. I think, substantial. I don't know what those numbers are at, but I think that's what warrant looking at what this true cost is, because we're not, we'll trade in this other bus, but someday we'll trade in this brand new bus, right? And so it's a hidden cost, but it's a true cost. And if we decide to make a move at some point down the road, we'd be better off having something. Yeah.
That's very plain. One other piece I wanted to add to is corporate sponsorship. And I think this would have to go through the board as well, because it's tied to advertising. That might be a way to capture larger sums of money by going out and selling corporate sponsorship that we can put on the back of the bus. So as we're traveling, people are seeing who helped us pay for the bus. And so that can actually take a big chunk of this. But to your point, Ethan, and you're absolutely right. I mean, right now we're losing money.
They definitely do it. My point is that we started out with 0 buses 4 years ago, right? And so that's how other districts have done this. And so we're going from 0 buses to 2 really crappy buses to a brand new bus.
maybe that's not the the progression that is most fiscally responsible. Maybe the progression is to get something in between these low-end buses and a brand new bus. And then we can trade in that bus or trade in the other one after we, I think you get more bang for your buck on depreciation on a newer used bus than you do on a brand new bus. That's what I'm saying. But I'm not on the transportation committee, and I know everybody's put a lot of time into it, so that's just way too much.
Availability of these buses isn't like a Ford pickup.
That's the tough one.
It's a little harder to find these ones that are in that.
And we've actually looked at that, so it depends on the company you're going through, so National and American, they'll sell you demos, but they put all the bells and whistles on the demos. And I don't know that we want, like for example, bathrooms. I don't know that we want bathrooms and things like that. But the travel coaches, in talking with Chuck, they all have bathrooms and that kind of thing too. So, and to Ann's point, when we spoke earlier, the leasing piece, if we have the funds, we want to be careful about paying interest on something. If we have the funds that we can just pay, whatever we decide to do. I know that was a question last month too, can we lease something? And I don't know that that's the wisest course of action for us either, because now we're paying interest on it, and we actually have the money here.
Then you don't get the depreciation on a lease. I mean, that's the
You
real
actually
advantage
do,
of a lease.
you actually do.
You do get a
Lease a home.
or lease, but still, generally speaking, that's not a good, no. I mean, I think
Somebody else is
if
making
you
some
can,
money.
I've said my opinion, so I'm good, thank you.
So just with the bus depreciation, if the bus costs 300,000, we'd be doing 60,000 a year times 7.5 years. You can do it 7.5 years. So we would, I think if we kept the bus for 7.5 years, which I think we would, we'd have 450,000. So just that would add up. It's
And then
7.5 years.
are you finished at the end of 7.5 years of
Nope.
depreciating
Well,
it?
yes, on that bus.
So it doesn't continue to grow.
Correct.
But
Right. Right now, to that point, in 7.5 years, buses aren't going to be,
300,000.
yeah, 450,000 or whatever we would have.
Yeah.
So it's all relative, because, that's what we're dealing with right now. Our depreciation does not cover the cost.
And hopefully you have some residual value in a brand new bus in 7.5 years.
Yeah. Because National and American Bulk have said they will not accept trade-in
Of ours.
either of our buses, just because they know they can't sell them. They can't take them off hands. So they would pay for it. They would pay for parts. We'd buy them for parts if we could get them there. So not a great deal.
Yeah. Oklahoma covered as well.
So, all right. So that's where we are.
Okay, good enough.
All right, next item is item E. It is recommended that the district approve the proposed 2024-2025 FP14 student attendance agreements for incoming elementary non-resident enrollment requests due to extenuating circumstances.
A motion to support that recommendation.
Second. No, it's elementary.
It's
No.
been moved and seconded to approve the non-resident FB 14s. Discussion on that.
So to do this within the law, because our policy sets a deadline, and I'm trying to find it's all right. But so extenuating circumstances, it's for the district, not the family. So if circumstances change for the family, if they miss the deadline, they miss the deadline. The law does not allow discretion. School districts can no longer have discretion to make decisions on a one-by-one basis. So for us, the extenuating circumstance for us would be, for example, if there was a mistake on our part in the application process, or if all of the siblings go to school here and one of the siblings was gonna go to school in a neighboring district and live with one of the parents, and live with one of the parents. Well, if that parent leaves and it doesn't take the child with, which is the circumstance we're dealing with, the extenuating circumstance for us, we would want that child who has been in school here before involved here with siblings, best for that family. And that, I mean, that's extended, we feel like that's an extenuating circumstance for us. And so we have 3, and of the 3, they all meet the standard. I've communicated with NTSBA to make sure that the request meets the standard, so we're agreeing a lot, and they all do.
Okay, any other discussion, questions about that?
I guess I would add one more thing. They meet all of our requirements of attendance, behavior. It's not putting us over any of our limits. It doesn't require us to have to hire another teacher. And so,
Any other discussion or questions about that? Any other? All in favor of the motion to approve the MP14s as presented, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
thank you.
Now we're getting really good stuff.
Okay, it's recommended that the district approve the proposed 2023-2024 trustees financial summary. We just do one at a time, correct?
Yes.
So we'll start with the elementary school district.
Okay, a motion first of all to support the recommendation to approve the TFS as elementary as presented.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, okay. And enlighten us.
Yes, all right. So what is the trustees financial summary? It's the annual report for each fiscal year. It's basically a summary of all the revenues in, all the expenditures out for each fund. And that includes the budgeted funds and the non-budgeted funds. It's the primary document that the auditors use when he comes. He'll double check all the numbers that are reported on here compared to what we have in our books. It also reports on our long-term liabilities, fixed assets, and pensions. Just a couple of things to mention. So if you go through this, first thing is our balance sheet. You will notice that we haven't had this in the past, but we do have more protested taxes than we've had in quite a few years. I did talk to the treasurer or the county assessor's office, and they have been working really hard for the past 10 months on getting all of those cleaned up and cleared out. Some of them a lot of them have resulted in lower values, but some in higher values if they hadn't been out to their house in a while. So when I go through the budget, you'll see that one of our taxable values actually did go down, and that was the reason for that. But this is what's left for the protested taxes. It is starting on page 3. It's going to be on line 3 in each fund. So like, for instance, elementary, Manhattan Elementary, there's 1,657 in protested taxes. So that's really not bad. But it is a lot more than we've had in previous years. Other than that, you can go through the non-budgeted funds, which is what we're not going to approve next. Those are usually limited to the cash balance in the fund, so you can take a look at this and see what our cash balance is in our multi-district fund. You can look at that. That's basically what our budget will be next year.
There's 41 pages in this, just so people
Yes.
wonder why we're
41 pages.
Google-eyed this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of numbers behind the scenes. These are numbers all rolled up, but behind the scenes are all the numbers broken out by school. But those don't actually show up in this report, or it would be massive.
School line item.
What's that? School line items, yeah. The building. This year, we do also have the softball batting cages on there. Those were donated. Let's see.
So
I don't have
30,000.
those. Let's see, so those are in the high school. If we look at the high school, those were just over 200,000 for the batting cages, yep. So that's good for us because that increases our assets. Our fixed assets are on page. It's like 45,
45.
page 45.
No, we only went to 41, so.
Oh, I'm on the high school,
Oh,
sorry.
so you're already into the high school.
I've already moved on, yep.
Well,
I'm in the
then,
high school, yep.
we've got the motion, first of all, for just the elementary,
Okay.
so we're gonna have to just deal with
Let's
that one
just do the
first.
elementary, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, is there anything else I can say about the elementary?
What?
Is there any other questions on the elementary? Questions?
There's a lot of numbers there, yeah. I looked at every page there. My calculation, and I've got it all right so far. So, this is a lot of work, Ann, and I appreciate this, but the taxable valuation, we'll talk about that here in a
With
little
the
bit.
budgets.
Okay, in the budget, so, okay. All right, any questions about the TFS as it's presented on the elementary side so far? Any questions? I appreciate the work that you and your office put together to get this in, so I know it's a lot of work, and our auditor says the same thing, that it's really good that it gets done that way, so with that, is there we've got a motion? All in favor of the motion to approve the TFS elementary as presented, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now you get to your,
Yeah, so the high school is the same, just fund by fund, revenues, expenditures out, and then basically ending fund balance, which most of the time it matches the cash. Sometimes it does not because we have accounts, encumbrances. But for the most part, that's basically where we end the year.
you talked about 45, though, page 45.
Yeah,
What were you-
go to page 45, that's our fixed assets. Under buildings, all of that is the softball field, the softball batting cages,
The addition's 185,000.
yes. And Mark did a good job of tracking all of that, I got all of that number from him, along with invoices. And on page 46, those are our bonds that are outstanding. We've got 2 of them in each school.
Okay, so with that, is there a motion to approve the TFS for the high school district as presented? So moved. Second. Any other discussion on that? Any other questions on that? Light reading. Approve that. Any other questions, discussion? If not, ready for vote, all in favor of the motion to approve the TFS for high school, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, it is recommended that the district approve the proposed 2024-25 final budgets. So we'll start with the elementary school district, the summary over previous fiscal year.
You want us to just look at the summary, is that
Yeah,
easiest
I
for
think
us? Just-
so.
Okay,
Yeah, because I've taken the numbers from the full budget report on page 2 and put them into the summary. So we've got those right here. One is green, one is orange. So we'll start with the green one. That's elementary.
okay.
Yep. Okay, and I'll just kind of go over the differences if that's okay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know anytime. So the first thing is our taxable value. The elementary school did increase, it was not a reevaluation year, but it did increase 10,390, which was 0.061%. We did have newly taxable at 360,341. I did talk to the assessors and they said that is a little lower than what it actually should be, but they were so busy working on all the protested taxes that got a little behind on the new tax bill. So she said that'll get caught up for next year. So yeah, that did not go up as much as usual, but that was because of last year going up over 40%. Okay, so our A and B, 497, down 11 from last year. This is the second consecutive year of decreased A and B. Okay, so I'll just kind of go through the differences of each fund. These are our budgeted funds. The reason these are budgeted and need board approval is because they could involve taxpayer property tax revenue and mills. So these do need board approval. So general fund, the difference over last year is $8,000, just over $8,000, even though we had a decrease of 11 A and B. And we are in our 3-year averaging, so it would have been more, but we are using 3 years, so we're just down 11. But it does increase our budget 8,000. That's a result of the 3,000 inflationary increase that the state gave us, amounted to $8,000. We did not ask for a general fund levy during the spring. The transportation budget is going to go up $7,185. This is Harlow's CPI increase of 3.4%. Tuition is going to go up $21,000. That's a result of our in-district high needs SPED students. And just the additional parents that we need for that. In K-8. Retirements a county levy, it is going up somewhat. We did use more than usual, so we need to bump that up a little bit, just so that stays up with all of our additional staff. Technology is an additional $28,000. That's a little complicated just because we actually it's just that 28,000 over this year, but that is our tech levy. Each year we get 110,000 plus the fund balance rollover. So we didn't need to spend all of that, so it just rolled over. So we've got 187,000 in that for next year, or this year, I guess. Okay, the flex fund is an additional 7,600. That fund has basically stayed the same, just with interest, and we just roll it over every year. This year is the first year, Josh Mostad, he did apply for the State Advanced Opportunity Aid Grant. So we're getting money in both the elementary school and in the high school. And we're still kind of working through those details on what we're going to be able to spend that on and use that for, but it's an additional 7,000.
Through the SHOP program, or is it?
Yes, yes. Yep. Building reserve voted. That is no additional funds. That's just what we haven't spent in there. So it's just rolled over, no mills. Building reserve permissive. That is going down. We have used some of that money, so it's going down, but we do have, we get about 100,000 between what we levy and then what the state gives, so about 100,000 between the two schools. So even though the overall budget went down, we still have 100,000 in there to spend. The bonds are on a schedule. They are going, it's all on a schedule. So one of them is going down a little bit, 64,000. Then the other one is 522,500. So overall, our budget's increasing just over 87,000 in all those funds, but the mills are going down 6.31.
Okay.
And then just some notes, all of our funds are at maximum reserve. Elementary does have excess reserves of 31,494, which is going to be really important for next year. Normally we just roll those over to be used when we need it, but it does say it can be used to fund the overbase, which kind of wanted to go over what the tuition, HB 203, how the tuition is going to change next year. This year, and we're going to receive it in the budget, Amsterdam tuition is paying us just about $47,000, and we can use it to fund the overbase budget this year. next year, we're no longer going to be able to use that to fund the overbase, so we're going to lose that budget authority. So in order to keep that same budget, we either need to have enrollment increases or vote it. But we pretty much know we're going to have that enrollment increase based on what we just approved. Correct, Brian? Yeah. We're hoping that they show up, yeah,
Come October, October calendar, for sure.
right.
I think we're pretty confident.
Yep, I did give you a visual, if we want to kind of pull this out on the tuition. I know Mike had some questions on it last month, so I'll make sure he gets it. But if you look at, kind of talks about how each budget is funded, the base budget and then the overbase budget. Base budget is funded with state funding, local property taxes. Overbase budget is funded with either tuition and or a voted levy. So if you go to page 3, current model, there's your base budget, your overbase. The new model, it moves, the tuition is the orange piece. So actually the next page is better. That orange piece, that is our tuition that's currently in our overbase, it's going to move now into the base budget. And the gray portion where it's local property taxes, that's going to replace local property taxes. So if we ever did need to go for, if we do need to go for a levy, it's just trying to explain that to the public that your taxes might be the same. It's just instead of, but we have to vote it. They have to actually vote it in, but your taxes wouldn't change.
In order to get us to the base budget
In
then.
order to give us to the overbase budget, the same overbase budget. That highest budget right there. Yes.
Okay.
And that's kind of shows it on the next page. Any overbase budget previously funded with tuition must now be funded with a voted levy. So we're going to lose that 50,000, but
So like this year, maybe the math wouldn't work out, but if that were the case this year, where we didn't have the capacity really to run, I mean,
right,
we wouldn't have even been able to, I mean, it wouldn't have been even worth running a levy.
right.
We didn't have enough capacity in our maximum budget to
We would have lost
meet
that
that
budget
difference.
authority
We just-
completely. So the timing worked out well for us.
The tuition part.
For the tuition part, yeah.
But back to this part again, Ann,
Yes,
I just want to make sure that I understand this so the public does too,
yep,
that in the end, our mills are down 6.31 in the elementary part of that,
correct.
which means that people's taxes for the school elementary should be lower because it takes less mills to provide
That's
the
correct.
same amount of money or the amount of money that we have in our
That's correct, yeah. So even though our budgets are increased, it will cost less unless you were one of those that had new taxable property.
right. But that's a different story. you know.
Exactly. Most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, your mills will be less. Taxes will go down.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty, so where are we then with? Anything else then, Ann, that you want to talk about the elementary?
No, is there any questions on that?
There's really not much, I mean,
Right, I am working through the line items. All the line items are done in all the budgets except for the general fund.
Sure.
We wait for payroll to get loaded. Once that's loaded, so those will be done in September, all the line items.
Line
the
items,
individual-
this is the amount of money though that we're voting on
Correct.
tonight for the.
Yes,
you presented
this
to
is
us tonight.
what you have to, yes.
Sure.
Yep,
So with that, is there a motion to approve the elementary district in summary over the previous fiscal year as presented tonight?
So moved.
And moved and seconded. Any other discussion or any other questions that anybody has on our proposed final budget in summary? This is the most exciting meeting we have all year, isn't it, Ann?
everybody loves it.
one of the most important.
I think
It is
this
important,
is the best way to present it, though. It shows what our budgets are doing, how they're changing, and what ultimately the tax bills are to meet the needs of the school's budget.
Yeah, and the goal is to keep the mills as even as possible, and
Right.
I think we try to do that as much as possible.
And we've got another 8 years on the one budget and, I mean, the bond, and then until 2036 on the new high school for the new mill bond. So we're making good progress there. All right, any other discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion to approve the elementary school district in summary over the previous fiscal year as presented, say aye. Aye, aye, motion carries. Now
Okay,
to the orange ones.
yep. Now, go on the high school budget, our taxable value for the high school district, which includes Amsterdam Elementary, did go down 156,894, which is a negative 0.61%. There was 457,000 newly taxable.
And what
Yep.
makes a taxable valuation go down? They didn't tear down any buildings. There
So
wasn't
no,
anything
and I
like that?
called on that because we weren't the only district that went down, and she said it's the result of the revaluations, people that
Revaluation part.
wanted a reevaluation
Oh.
of their property.
Okay,
Because that's what I said, I said, well, you would think it would at least go up by the 457, right? That's
Yeah.
really taxable. And she didn't, she
but
said
people
no.
that went in and asked for new evaluations
Yes.
and they've got some lower is what it amounts to.
Yep, she
Okay.
said they had it, 1,500.
Taking it over that 457, that's $600,000.
Right.
Yeah, plus 156, yeah.
Yep, she said they had over 1,500 people request. And they worked through that. That was the most since, I think she said that 2008.
600 people wanted
More, over 1,500.
1,500. Oh,
1,500, yeah.
wow. Okay, all right, carry on, I'm
Like she
sorry.
said, some resulted in higher values, but most were lower or the same. A and B, we went down to A and B. We are in the 5th consecutive year of decreased or no change to A and B. Now we have approved, is it 8 high school out of district. And so we'll see how that goes.
But some of those might have been part of that last time anyway, because if they were employees' kids or something like that.
That's
So
right.
we just wait
Let's
to
we
see
just
what
wait
our,
and see.
what our
Yep.
count is.
Yep. Okay, so budgets, general fund, that is the, we're going to get an additional 43,877. So even though we went down A and B, that's 3% extra from the state. No general fund levy requested. Transportation, additional 5,790. That's again, Harlow's CPI increase of 3.4%. Bus depreciation, difference of the 22,730.40. We are in our 5th year. So we are going to depreciate the 2 buses that we currently have to get an additional 20,000, 10,000 per bus, maximum 7.5 years, we can do that. Tuition for the high schools, just going up a little bit. That's our in-district high needs sped students. Retirement, again, that's a county levy. We had to add a little bit more to that to meet all of our extra staff. Adult ed, no extra meals. Well, it is a 0.18 meals, but it is the same budget of $15,000. Just a small levy needed. Technology, or is a tech levy of 55,000 per year, plus the fund balance for that. Again, that is limited to 10 years. This would be our 2nd year of the 10 years. Okay, flex fund. Normally that's about 10,000 every year. This year we got an additional 28,000 for the state advanced opportunity aid grant. I do know that 75% of it has to be used to help student fees. So again, we're working through on what we can.
And will that only be through MOSTED's
That's
program?
That's what I don't know.
I don't know.
I think so, all CTE.
All CTE,
But it's
okay.
pretty flexible. I mean, it can even be used for driver's ed fees.
Okay.
So you have to look at that.
Good for him
It's
to do
new.
that.
Yeah. So, okay, billing reserve voted, no new levy, it's just fund balance rollover. But the budget increases 3,597. So that is interest that we received. Billing reserve permissive. the amount that we can levy plus the state amount, but it is going down only because we have spent some of that money this year. And then there's our 2 bonds, which are going down a little bit this year. 1,550 on one, and then the 16 bond, and then the 2017 bond is 5,100 less. Those bonds both go till 2036. So overall, our budget is increasing 119,500. Our mills are going down 1.89. So people should be paying less.
With the same taxes.
With the same taxable value, right?
Okay.
And then all our reserves are at maximum.
When can you use those reserves, Ann?
When do we use them?
Yes.
It would be in an emergency, or we use them from July through November until the next taxes come in. That's what we use
Okay.
for cash.
And then you
So it's
fill
pretty
those back up.
Yes,
as we go. Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Any other questions for Ann about high school? Proposed final budget? Is there a motion to approve the high school?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion or questions? Anything else? Thanks again, Ann, for all of
Yes,
this.
you're welcome.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
All right, well, thank you. That concludes the board action items, brings us to board information items. 8th grade participation in high school sports. Nate is here. Did you want to speak to, the decision is basically, we aren't going to draft, we didn't draft policy in the fall, it just started. For fall sports, and I can let Nate speak to some of the reasoning why there, but the plan is to have something in place by the winter, or at least a decision or a recommendation bring to the board by the winter. Okay. So did you want to speak?
Real quick, and Brandon, if you want to add anything, but the question will keep coming up about 8th graders participating in high school sports. And we certainly didn't feel that we were ready to roll it out right now. We just met with athletes today, and those middle school 8th grade students wouldn't have heard over the summer. So we felt like we were way too rushed. When Brian's done some research with a committee group, and he shared that information with me, but we want to take some time this fall to see if, the question will keep coming up, and to be able to provide an answer once I've been here a little bit longer. Could greatly benefit some sports, could have some unintended consequences for others, so I want to be really thoughtful as we go through it.
Thanks, Nate. Orange looks good on you. Any other questions for either Nate or Mr. Ayers?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nate. Next item up is basically policy 3630, which is linked to the agenda. Last month, or maybe it's 2 months ago now, the handbooks were accepted, and the cell phone policy is now going to be a more restricted cell phone policy during the school day. But I guess the board information item that I wanted to bring, just put in front of everyone, is just a reminder. I know there was, the question was raised by the board. Basically, the request was made for me to take a look at our cell phone policy and to survey the community, our teachers, our kids, and just gain some insight into where people stand, and all that information led us toward this basically that we maybe need to rein in cell phone use in our schools. And so we are doing that, but I guess I want to just highlight, if you look at our policy, which was adopted last reviewed in January of 2015, we really didn't make any change to the policy. Policy's always been basically off and away during the school day. I mean, that's kind of the terminology we're using to communicate to the group, to our students and our parents. But if you look at this policy, I'll just read it, folks in the audience here. Student cell phones and other electronic equipment. Student possession and use of cellular phones, pagers, and other electronic signaling devices on school grounds as school-sponsored activities while under the supervision and control of school district employees is a privilege which will be permitted only under the circumstances described herein. At no time will any student operate a cell phone or other electronic device with photographic or video capabilities in a locker room, bathroom, or other location where such operation violate the privacy right of another person. Use of cameras, cell phones, and other communication equipment is not permitted during school hours, including passing times in the halls. Students are required to turn off and store cell phones while in the school building. iPods, integrated systems, phones will not be allowed in the classroom or halls unless approved for legitimate classroom learning and school purposes. Therefore, unauthorized use is ground for confiscation of the device by school officials, including classroom teachers. Confiscated devices will be returned as outlined in each student handbook. And in our handbooks, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know at least K-8 parents would have to come get it. Is that the same for high school? Parents would have to come get it if it's confiscated?
I need,
First offense.
the first offense, the student can pick it up from the office.
Okay, and then
But
after that, it's
After that, it's parent
parents pick up, okay. And so confiscated device will be returned as outlined. Repeated unauthorized uses of such devices will result in disciplinary action, which is all outlined in our handbooks and our disciplinary code. So I guess I'm just putting it in front of the board, because I know you're gonna get calls. Miranda sent out information to her parents and students today. Just letting them know that this is, we're gonna enforce this strictly this coming year, and the other principals, I'm gonna send out a district-wide message. I sent out just a welcome back letter to parents today, but I wanted to send something out separately that's specific to this. I know as board members, you're gonna get calls, and I think it's just really important that you, direct folks back to us, but just refer them to the policy. The policy has not changed. We didn't ask you to change the policy, you didn't change the policy. All we're doing, and for a lot of very good reasons, and we've done the research, we've surveyed our folks, we feel confident that the vast majority of our folks are gonna support this. There will be some that don't. But just refer them to the policy, it's very clear. It's a policy that we've had around for almost 10 years in this district, and now we're just going to, it's going to be more consistently, not more, it's going to be consistently enforced. And it's not even a teacher's discretion. A teacher must have permission from a building principal to allow use in the classroom. So it can't even, it's not even going to be like classroom teacher discretion.
And it's not like Manhattan's an island either. You showed me an article that was come from where back in Iowa or Illinois or somewhere that, or some,
So building, I mean, you go all over our state, it's happening.
and all across the nation is too, so that.
Yeah, I mean, the research, when you look at depression and cyberbullying and all these types of things, I mean, there's just a direct link. Emergency responders support are heavily in support of school districts who are going to this policy, because when they are responding to an emergency, they're not having to deal with just all this communication that's going out. When we had that swatting incident, we had parents on our sidewalks out front here that were armed. And because they're hearing from their kids, hey, there's something going on here. And parents are gonna protect their kids, absolutely. And so, but really what ends up happening is we're putting a lot of people in harm's way by having folks show up. The police officers, as one person said to me, they don't know who the big guys are. And in fact, as soon as the school, we allowed parents to start coming into the office and checking the kids out, they left. And we finally had to make the decision to do that because we felt confident there was not a threat, but we also felt like we're at a point where we can't tell parents no anymore. they need to be allowed into our school to get their kids, and at that point, law enforcement, they hadn't cleared the building yet, they left. So that's just one example, but I can tell you across the board, there are a lot more good reasons for doing what we're doing than that.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Ayers? Thank you, Brian.
And then the final board information item, last month we had the early literacy targeted intervention policy and forms. We presented them as first reading, working together with the admin team. We would like to, we didn't bring it to you for second reading and consideration because we want to put this before our policy committee and we want to put this before our curriculum committee. And fully vet it and really, even if we were to bring it to you and you were to approve it, there are no funds on the state level. That was all. You had to apply for that by a certain deadline. Our district team was ready for that at that time, so we didn't have that in place. So we're going to wait. We're going to vet it, go through our committee process, and bring it back to you some point during the school year for consideration. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Now we're to our principal's reports, and so we'll go this way to start with Miranda.
This is just a packet, it's an information that went out to families today, so families and students, and it was wonderful that I messed up the first communication that went home.
Was impressive.
It was, yeah. And believe it or not, 3 of us proofread that whole thing before it sent out. And then, of course, as soon as I press send and try to cancel it in time, it's sent to half. And I'm like, well, welcome to the 24-25 school year. So anyways, for a minute there, for like maybe 2 minutes, Mr. Borowicki was teaching art, but he's not. He's actually teaching band and music. So got it fixed, and it was kind of, hopefully some people can laugh at me a little. I was frustrated with myself and had to laugh at myself too, but that's just the way it goes. So just a welcome letter, and then the newsletter highlights basically any kind of new things, and I try to identify what's new, what's updated, what's just a good reminder that we need to be cognizant of moving into the year. So it also had some of the important events that hopefully people can throw on their calendars real quick as they're going to approach rather quickly. The first one being tonight was our fall sports meeting. So you can peruse through that. You got the correct version with Mr. Borowicki teaching band. Brian, I have to ask, did you get the voicemail and both texts in all the emails?
Yeah.
So you were one of
And
some.
my wife gets them all too. And, we're well informed.
Perfect.
Only got one from Mary though.
Hey, you know, setting the bar here.
No, you're setting it there. I didn't set it there.
So yeah, basically just trying to help so everybody's aware and we don't start day one with surprises. And then I'm currently working, I shared this with my teachers too, so that they saw what went out to families, but then I'm also getting together much more information for them that'll go out this week, including just relevant documents they need for the year. They can look at it ahead of time if they want, but otherwise we'll be reviewing most of it on the IR days next week. And I want to say kudos to Nate on a successful fall parent meeting, and he had his coaches meetings last night, and so we appreciate all your work that you've put in so far.
Practices start when?
On Friday.
On Friday.
And at some point, we'll figure out what would make the most sense, but I would like to give just, not tonight, an athletic or activities financial report of some sort to our board. I know that's something we've talked about in years past. I feel like we have a team together now that is able to do that and do it well. And I think everything's accounted for finally, or maybe we're close.
We're getting closer.
So as soon as we get there, and again, we have Miranda's our fund custodian for our activities. But with Lisa, we pulled her out of the office so she can focus more on student activities and registrar. And in working with Nate, the three of them, I think we'll be able to pull this together and we'll stay out in front of it. And I know that it's very frustrating for people in our community who want to help us too, when we don't know what our needs are. So we're quickly getting there. We're in such a good place right now. I'm very hopeful and excited about what the future holds with our team.
So my report is, does the school board get the district emails that, or is it only if you have a student?
They do get it if you send it out to all the staff.
But not through Infinite Campus.
No.
So you send
Got
an email to a
So
specific.
you got it because you're a parent. Got it.
I think I got it too. That's why.
Huh?
I think I got some middle school update. Actually, I got it in my private meeting.
Oh, well, I sent it through Infinite Campus.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Middle school.
Yeah.
So you both have middle schoolers? Oh, interesting.
I'm sure it's just a glitch, like. It's probably my son.
Or it could be me, like, who knows?
That's right.
Who did I send it to?
Hey, I'll feel better if I'm not the
You
only.
did? From me?
For AOL. That's my personal email was an AOL, I think, but it comes.
So you all received a personal message from me today?
But it was. Yeah, like a middle school letter. Yeah. No, that it wasn't.
Interesting.
But it wasn't my
No,
school.
it was through the MHS.
It might have been if you had specific segments.
I did include staff today
But
on.
we still should have been on the MHS Tigers email.
But if you're set up as a staff member through Infinite Campus, a lot of staff also have a personal email tied to it for communication purposes. So if she included staff, it might have came that way
Oh,
for that reason.
I'll problem solve with her later because I want to send them out correctly. We have a 2.0 version of Messenger, and so I think I'm using it right, but
Mine
maybe
wasn't
not.
updated to 2.0.
So, you guys, you have all of this. You all have a copy of this. If not, I can pass it around. I also want, actually, I'll just pass it around. I also have a copy of the shared values that I'm gonna share with staff on our first staff meeting so that we can go through them and update them and see if we can agree upon these behaviors as a staff and how we present ourselves. And so if you have any input on those, I would love to hear your feedback because we want this to reflect what you're hoping we reflect as adults in the building when we're working with students. We are doing a lot of scheduling recently. In the last couple weeks, the counselor and I have been working on scheduling and communicating with families so that we can hopefully provide every student in the middle school a schedule that they look forward to, experiencing this year. And with that, we have worked on providing more opportunities for students who are struggling and aren't where they need to be academically, but also for students who are advanced and gifted to be able to move and be challenged at the level that they're at. So we're beginning the process. We have a couple courses through Montana Digital Academy. Is that correct? Montana Digital Academy. They're online self-paced courses. French and coding are two options for our 8th graders who are ready for that. First period, we had a huge amount of students in 8th grade wanting to take Spanish. The class size was at 30. We creatively found a way to offer that 2 times a week with music appreciation the other 2 days a week so that we could get up to 40 students in Spanish, year-long course with just 2 days a week. So we were able to get the class sizes down to 20 by being creative, 21-ish. And we're still working on things. So my philosophy is excellence for every student every day. And we're gonna walk that talk by how we communicate with families and what we offer for kids. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Pratt.
Well, first off, I apologize for being late. Nate kind of double booked me over there between the two of them, so got here as quick as I can. In the elementary, just a couple different things that I've been doing. So we have 260 students in the elementary, and each of those students have been put into their classroom in campus. So I got back, been back about 3.5 weeks, and then just kind of went at it from there, trying to get things accomplished. After we got that done, we sent out just a back to school flyer on the campus to the parents that just provides information on when they can see who their teacher is, dates and times for open house, supply lists they need for school, and then contact information. Got the master schedule done, duty schedule done. Sending out my welcome back letter on Thursday. I'm not a designer like these two are over here, so I'm kind of feeding off them and then kind of creating my own from there with the elementary. And then just been in constant communication with our staff and on important information or questions they might have, and trying to answer emails and get my to-do list done every day. So excited for the year and getting ready to go.
And we're full this year before school starts for our teachers and all of that, with the exception of a couple of issues.
Yeah, we are fully staffed. We could use another custodian, like an event custodian for weekends. And we're still.
We could use a concession stand manager.
Concession stand. I think Ethan wanted to talk to you about that later. What else? We're gonna look at where our students are at before we hire another para, because we're probably gonna have shifting some paras. We don't need to hire new paras. If the kids moved, you can move adults with them. So we're gonna look at that first. So, but other than that, we're fully staffed, and and now the work starts filling some of these positions. You'll remember over the years, we went from 2 to 1 librarian over here. We did not bring back a middle school technology teacher. We didn't fill that position with a retirement. We have in grades 3, 4, 5, we went from 3 to 2. So our goal is, as we see enrollment and needs the increased funding to start filling these positions that we didn't cut, but we didn't fill when people left. So just getting back to where we were, but doing that in a fiscally responsible way. So, we are fully staffed. Yeah. And then just quickly with superintendent's report, facility use request process. As always, our facilities, we want to be available, our facilities to be available for our community. And we revamped our process now so we don't run into issues. So before it ever gets to me, it's going to go to the individual building principal. So whatever the space is that's being requested, building principal is going to look at it and the athletic director is going to look at it. And so by the time it gets to me, I know that there is not going to conflict with something in activities or something planned for our building. And then I just acknowledge receipts of it. And then we manage out of our office just any of the legal paperwork that has to happen. But we're kind of putting it on our principals to look at their calendars, make sure the space is available. Because a lot of instances last year where we had to call committee members and say, I'm sorry, we didn't realize we had a practice, or we didn't realize we had this, and pretty frustrating people when they think they have the space and they don't. So I feel like this process is going to help. And also with regards to facilities use, met with the management over at Park Haven today. They're going to be using this space, this room, in fact, as part of their evacuation plan. If they ever have to evacuate their residents, they're going to evacuate them here. So we signed that and moved to that today. So we're happy to do that too. We provide that service to them. District committee calendar. Our principals are going to make sure every single member of their staff serves on at least one committee, and try to limit the number of people that are doing all of it, and make sure we don't have folks that are doing none of it. So share that work. But also that expectation that everyone's going to serve on in some capacity at the district level on a committee. And we're starting to put, we set the dates for all of our committee meetings, so we're way ahead of the game on that. And we're going to start building our agendas for each of the committees. So that work's happening now. Met with the admin team yesterday for almost 5 hours, and just in final preparations for the start of the school year. I will have meetings with each individual administrator between now and the September PIR for goal setting meetings. They're going to provide a professional learning goal, and that's going to be based on self-reflection to the standards that they're assessed by, and then a student learning goal. And that could be a combined student learning goal that they all work on together, or it could be something specific to their building, and then they'll share that student learning goal with their building staff, so it's all aligned and everyone understands what we're doing. So that's happening. Facilities and grounds walkthrough. I did a walkthrough with Danny and Josh. The classrooms are ready, and I've encouraged to send out some communication to the principals today if they don't have final walkthroughs scheduled, to get those scheduled for students to show up, to make sure they're doing the walkthroughs. Everything that was on their list last year is done and ready for whether it be safety or instruction. Those are our two priorities there. And so our maintenance and custodial folks did a tremendous job. They always do. There were a few things we ran into with sprinkler systems that went down on us, but they worked hard to get them up and running. And but all in all, our buildings look great. Our grounds look great, and we're ready to roll. So the week of August 19th, so next week, we have new teacher orientation on Monday and mentor programming on Tuesday. And so, so Monday and Tuesday, those are flex days. So the new folks need to be here. Anyone who's mentoring a new teacher needs to be here those first 2 days, or at least the second day. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, that's our first 2 contract days. Those are PIR days. We will have full agenda on Wednesday. We'll have a district assembly. I invite all the trustees to that. We're going to have a different format this year. Rob, if you're able to and willing to come and speak.
I think Matt was going to this year, weren't you? No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be available.
Yeah.
You just let me know when.
Yeah, so it's going to be 10 to 10:30. It's abbreviated. So it's going to be a late start. So we're starting at 10 because we're going to 6 to accommodate working families, so that parents can come to the open house. So open house will go 4 to 6 on Wednesday. So we start at 10, we'll go 10 to 10:30. And I've asked our building principals to reach out to boosters, PTO, and bring them into individual staff meetings. And so that if it hasn't been communicated yet, it will be, and we'll coordinate all that kind of stuff. We're not going to bring those in and talk to the larger group, just because it doesn't pertain to everyone in the larger group necessarily. And we have some activities where we're going to focus more on stomach grounding activity, just with more of a teacher focus. So, and then this is just came to me today. I guess it's a question for the board. The district calendar that was approved by the board, we had the wrong dates on it. I think the district calendar showed that tip-off tournament in December is the 12th through the 14th, when it should have actually read 13th and 14th. Is that correct? Does that require any type of board? I mean, I guess we had to go in and change the calendar on the website.
It was just in it wasn't the actual calendar, it was
Just
kind of-
on the side,
Right,
okay.
he said he would change it.
So we
Just a thought, that's our only athletic event that's included on the calendar at all. Is it one that we even have to include on the master calendar? Because
Is it included because we don't have school on one of the days?
I have no idea.
We used to not have school.
We
on a
used,
half
before
day.
we didn't have Fridays, we used to have that Friday off.
Okay,
And so that's why it was in.
That's why it was in.
so we don't need to even include it, okay? Maybe that's just what we'll do, is we'll just take that off altogether. It kind of, I think it sent panic amongst our music department, because
It was conflicting with the elementary band concert. So right away, great, oh, there's an issue here, just a typo, or having it off the calendar might make more sense.
all right, so it doesn't require any, okay, so that's it. What I said, any
We're
questions?
gonna talk about our, meeting with Kelly and Mike and about the
Oh, okay.
Scott.
Yeah, so we met, that was last week.
Last week.
We met last week, over cleanup. First of all, thank you to Kelly and to a lot of folks, and Nate Price, who can speak better to this, of just the cleanup work that they did, with the pit, the green shed, and so thank you. And, I'll get a card or something that, if you could help me get that to the right folks, or at least let them see it. Needed to be done, and stuff like that doesn't get done without community. And when during COVID, our booster club, they couldn't be involved. And it took some time to get our booster club up and running. But our booster club is, it's got to be up there with any booster club in the valley. And so we're pretty blessed to have you guys. And I know I see an email from Kelly, and I just go, but I just want you to know, and thank you, and keep pushing us. I think you're going to feel that communication is going to be a lot better than it's ever been. So, but back to that meeting, there's some things that were put on the back burner because we have been awaiting Office of Civil Rights response to a voluntary resolution agreement we sent to them. They accepted the agreement. They have now informed us they are coming to our district on the 20th, so next Wednesday or next Tuesday. And they do want to do a walkthrough, and they want to look at everything that was named in the complaint for ADA access. But with that being said, I don't think it gets in the way of any of the topics that we talked about at this meeting. One of the things that have already been checked off the list, and that would be the cleanup. And we have a new pole vault pit that we're working on how we're going to store it safely so it doesn't get ruined, and how we're going to store all of our athletic equipment that we haven't done a very good job of caring for in the space we have. And I don't think the door is closed on whether or not we maybe need to go back and just renovate that space or completely overhaul it. But I know at the very least we need to seal it up so we can keep the outside, the rodents and the elements off of our equipment. We talked about trophy case back in 2018, the facilities and grounds committee approved the trophy case. It was designed by Slate Architecture. We've had some follow-up meetings with them as recent as, I think, yesterday. And I think we're wanting to proceed with what was approved back in 2018, and that would be something for the commons. I think we also want to partner with boosters and we're going to get some specs from Slate and hand those over, because I think you said you had some people that were willing to build them. And so we're going to provide the specs to you guys, that way, as long as we meet those specs, we're fine in that hallway area. And so we're moving on those projects, and Slate's going to help us get there. So ultimately, here in short order, the hope is we'll have that, those trophy displays that kind of lean out away from the wall in the commons area up and running, and we'll have the trophy cases as you come in the main entryway into the commons, towards the commons. If you're heading towards the football field, right in that main entryway, across from the middle school office on those two walls, I think is what you guys talked about. So very promising there. I think we've talked about the bus update. I feel like there's one more thing we talked about in that meeting. I can pull it up. I guess trophy cases and, clean up the shed. I think that might have been it.
And the EDA stuff.
And the, you think of anything else, Kelly?
I think you forgot it, I'll just go look. Oh, we talked about some sponsorship stuff.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, and so right now, sponsorship of the district runs through corporate sponsorship, and any sponsors that boosters get go program, right, listed in the program. And so there's conversation about what that could look like. Where we're still able to implement our sponsorship program, that boosters can raise funds up support that. So, but I don't think we've landed anywhere on that. So.
Very good. Anything else?
No, we're ready. We're ready. I know we're excited. Mary sent everyone pins today that I love my job. And when I first looked at it, I thought I said, I love my dog. I do love my dog. But that's a weird pin. And my glasses on. We're wearing them over here, but so we're excited. I'm enthusiastic. So.
Final note is that Don Skelton, a longtime principal and science teacher, he was my chemistry and physics teacher here, and then a high school principal passed away, and his memorial is going to be here
On the 24th.
the 24th.
Yeah, from 1 to 3, I believe.
Yeah. The other thing is the 15th of August, you can all apply for your property tax refunds too from the county. Or the state, that's, I don't know. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Yeah, no, I guess.
Oh, my
Okay. Stop recording. Stop recording.